Okay. How do I start this? I bought 60 books. That number will change. I definitely have more than 60 at this point. Because every time I read a new one, it ends up recommending like 3 more that I want to read. But moral of the story, I have too many books, but also not enough books, and also not enough time to actually read all the books. But the plan for today is to talk about the very exciting things that are the reason that I now own a disgusting amount of books, and also why, as you may have noticed, the content on my channel has taken a bit of a turn into the media analysis sector of the world. I promise we'll continue with the sciencey stuff as well. I just kind of make videos based on what I'm interested in at the time, and because if it's not a special interest, I can't make myself research it or be interested. I also know that my life update videos on my channel tend to get significantly less viewership, but you should watch this to the end because this is describing my content for the next 10 months or so, and I will therefore continue to refer to it in all of my videos probably from now on for a bit, so you can save time by watching it now. But also, if you're already watching it now, you are probably not the person who needs to hear that. But anyway, so yes, the reason that I have an excessive number of books is because I'm doing a really cool thesis. It's gonna make some history. I've been working on the research portion for about 4 months at this point, and I wrote this video 4 months ago, but since then it has truly taken this long to get all the permissions and stuff totally figured out. But we're here. We did it. Also, you may not even know who I am. Hi, my name is Sydney. My pronouns are they, them. I am a 20-year-old person with shoulder-length curly hair. I'm wearing a gray t-shirt with shark fins on the front that you can't see. Hold up. Here it is. Ta-da. I picked it out without realizing that it was meant for small children, but I wanted it. So I got a youth large, and it fits perfectly, which I'm really thrilled about it because it's a shark shirt. Also, I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf. There are photos behind me on the wall, and the lighting might be sketchy because it's often sketchy in this room. I cannot wait to move back to school and have good lighting again. Also, my neighbor just started mowing his lawn. It's like boiling hot, so all of the fans are going, and there's several bugs just screaming outside of my window. So this video is already a rambly, chaotic disaster, but you know what? I'm excited about this project in this video, so we're gonna make the video anyway. Let's just do it. I've been waiting 4 months to make this. What I'm trying to say is that I'm a senior at a place called college, specifically Mount Holyoke College, and I'm doing a very big year-long project that's going to culminate in a show and also a long fancy paper known as a thesis, mostly because I want to do it, and the school's actually giving me the resources to do the thing that I want to do, but also because then I can take less classes in your traditional sense in order to graduate, while also getting to work on a passion project. And if you're wondering what I have against school, I have a video about that. I don't, as a multiply disabled queer trans autistic person, school makes me incredibly, horribly miserable, and you can learn about that in the card over here. Now, what kind of project is big enough for a full year plus 60-ish books, you may be asking? That is a valid question that my advisors for this project have also asked me, and also told me that I should save all this for a master's thesis, but I'm not gonna ever make a master's thesis, so I'm just gonna make a master's level undergrad thesis. The answer is independent study into the history and present day of disability theater education, with a focus specifically onto how to put that into action, there we go, in order to make a fully accessible classroom, which will become a series on this channel for y'all, and then also personally putting that into action by directing and playing Christopher in the first all-neurodivergent cast and crew production of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. I'm so excited. Also, I do have some other ideas. We're gonna get to those in a little bit, but that is our basic elevator pitch. Let's start by going over the first half, the research and resource bit. This series will be out every other Wednesday, starting, I think, September 7th, maybe until the beginning of December. I have specific ideas for videos lined up. I'm also gonna do a handful of other ones that are not in like my I'm getting credit for these videos category just because I want to make them, but they will all be in one playlist for you in an order that I think is best to learn all the information. That's not necessarily the order that they might come out, simply because some of my topics fit into what is credit worthy and some of them don't, which is thoroughly annoying. The video ideas as of now are the harm of the tortured artist trope, something about the psychology and science of live theater and representation, maybe, what discrimination looks like in the classroom, the legal rights of students, and the physio and psychological effects of these things of discrimination in the classroom, an introductory guide to trauma-informed practices in the classroom, constructing relaxed performances, and the intersection of neurodivergence, humor, and commedia dell'arte, because I love it. That's probably not the order they're going to be in. That list is also very liable to change, but if there's anything specific within any of those categories or even outside of those categories that you want to learn about or questions that you may have about accessible education. Oh, I'm also doing a series on how to write a disabled character and media analysis. So let me know if you want any more of those things, if you have any questions, any things you want me to answer, please let me know. Obviously this project is a 4-credit thing, so like I have to follow a couple guidelines in order to graduate, but when it comes down to the project itself, this is meant to create a resource for you guys, and so I'm very willing to take your ideas into consideration as long as I still get credits, I can graduate. I have some things about freak shows coming out soon. We already did Audie and Broadway and the Disability Arts Ghetto. We're going to get into media tropes, narrative analyses, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to continue with my media analysis reels because those seem like a major hit, and also now that I studied disabled media, I actually feel qualified to be reviewing things now rather than just giving my random opinions. But yeah, so that is part 1 of 3. Those credits are in the psychology department, and that contributes to loosely half to 2/3 of the books that I've purchased because I'm doing readings in the realm of education, theater education, special education, disability theater education, regular theater education, as well as theater history and disabled theater history. And a little bit of media analysis kind of in there, and a little bit of art history and some plays. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but I feel like if I'm going to do this, I need to be as holistic and full picture and get a fair knowledge of everything involved in order to tell you about it. I'm also so grateful to have gotten the privilege to make some friends in the education and outreach section of National Disability Theater. They're a lovely resource, so I'm really excited to have them a bit on board with this project as well. I would also like it to be known that about a quarter of the way into my reading, because I started this May, I've discovered that I hate teaching and education. I enjoy teaching a little bit, obviously that's what I do here. I enjoy giving talks and workshops every once in a while and like teaching things in that sense. The idea of creating a lesson plan or commanding a classroom for like 7 hours straight makes me absolutely exhausted and horrified just thinking about it. And I am realizing that by doing this project and making a whole heck of a lot of noise about this project, because that noise unfortunately needs to be made, people are going to assume that I love education and I want to do this for a living. So I want to make it clear that no, I kind of really hate it. It's exhausting, and half of what I'm learning about in regards to how to make an accessible classroom is just like being a decent and aware human being, which bothers me to no end. That's not common sense. But I am doing this project because I feel like it needs to be done, and because I feel like I'm doing something by filling a gap that needs to be filled. As somebody in the unique position to have taught for several years and knowing a lot about psychology, who's also disabled and has very recent experience being screwed over by theater education. And I'm able to put all of that into words and what went wrong and propose how to fix it, and I have a platform to do that. So I feel like I need to. The whole reason the first half of this project exists is because one theater education thing I got so sick because I was denied accommodations that I wrote a 30-page essay for those in charge of said program explaining everything that had gone wrong and how to potentially fix it, including extensive research into the negative impacts not fixing it has on students and on the industry as a whole and how we see representation. And the friends who helped me to proofread it said that I needed to share it with everybody else because it's a good resource. But the thing is I promised in said text to that program that I would not share the horrors of my experience, so that the program would have room to grow and change based on my light scolding without being permanently branded, because I believe that everybody has great possibilities, just often terrible execution. But also, with all things and people that I promise my anonymity to, it doesn't take many brain cells to connect some dots on my channel and figure out who they are, so do with that what you will. But what I'm trying to say in this little ramble is that this is not my passion. This is not something I really enjoy. This is something that I'm doing because I feel like it needs to be done. I'm not the first person to be having these conversations, but I am hoping that by making them digestible and easily shareable resources, that they will become a lot more mainstream than they currently are. And I'm not saying this to be like, please appreciate me for the sacrifice that I'm making for the community and the well-being of disabled people, because no. I'm saying it because A, I don't want my current work in education in this field to pigeonhole me into working forever as a teacher when I intend to be a professional actor working to integrate mainstream theaters. And if everybody sees me exclusively as an education person who like is behind the scenes fixing stuff, I'm screwed career-wise. And B, to help people understand that advocacy is not always a voluntary thing. People in minorities often don't want to make their livelihoods around fighting for what is right and educating other people on how to make it that way. We often do it because we feel like we have no other choice and it feels like the right thing to do. So, while I love theater, and I love the disability community, and I critique theater out of so much love and hope for what it could be, I don't want to be doing what I have to be doing here. I will do it because it needs to be done and because I feel capable of doing it and of adding to this conversation, but this project was never really started as a voluntary thing. It's a natural response to having my two major, very nearly deadly health crises be directly related to being treated like a pile of garbage in the theater education system and trying to do anything that I possibly can to make sure that that never has to happen to anybody else. So, yeah. I've also realized through this process how much trauma I personally have to unpack in order to research this and in order to talk about this research, like way more than I thought I was going to. And on one level, that's so great and it's so healthy and it's gonna really help me in the future. But on the other hand, it makes me really, really angry that I have to do that because I shouldn't have to. And I hate that I do and that I want to research something I'm passionate about and that is just traumatic. Like, most people write theses and do big academic projects because they're inquisitive, because they want to learn something new, because they want to make connections between different kinds of research and conversations. And I'm doing it because I know that people will probably die if I don't. And a lot of what I'm researching is what I've already learned through a lot of trauma, which I now have to figure out how to properly explain to other people in order to protect other people like me, but also in a way that does not completely destroy myself. So what I'm trying to say is I'm tired and I'm hurt and I'm angry through all of this process. I'm also interested and I'm hopeful and I'm excited and I'm having a good time on some level for what change I can create, but I want to be 100% honest that this isn't entirely a fun passion project. This carries a lot more weight to it than it may look like it does from the outside. And also, please don't try to make me the education head of your theater. Please. I beg of you. My friend told me I should like supplement this with more audition-y kinds of things on my channel to prove a point so I don't get job offers exclusively in the wrong field. I know from my analytics that those don't do super well, and therefore would mean that the rest of my educational content doesn't get the wider audience that I would like it to for like the purposes of this project. So I'm gonna kind of not do that too much unless it's specifically autism related, and all of this really sounds like I'm trying to frame myself as a martyr for the cause or whatever. That is not the intention. I just feel the need to be honest about my thought processes and how I'm feeling about all of this and working through all this stuff so that you know where I'm at and so that I don't get stuck accidentally doing this for a living, because it's potentially the only job I ever get offered and is the only job basically thus far I've gotten offered. I keep getting jobs I'm very qualified to do, and they're really cool, and they are directly adjacent to what I actually want to do, and I hope that maybe they'll push me closer to what I actually want to do, but sometimes I get scared that I'm being pigeonholed and that these fun, funky side jobs will become my only options, because people will only see me as those things, and that sometimes keeps me up at night. I've also been told by many a human that it would be wise to not put this information that I am researching and all of my hard work into the universe for free, because I can make so much more money being a consultant. Yeah, that is a thing I've thought about, but I also know that a lot of these resources are more easily shareable with people who need them when they're free. So ethically, that's what I'm gonna do. I also do get paid like a wee bit from YouTube. It won't be enough to live on for at least a couple years, but that being said, if you do want to support me at all, I will be including my PayPal link in the description from now on. Maybe I'll figure out what a super thanks is and turn that on. I think that's vaguely the same thing. I don't know. Absolutely no pressure. I know that half of my viewership is disabled college students who have absolutely no money to spare. That's totally fine, but if you do want to support me, that would mean a ton because these books were not cheap. Also, if you want specific situational consultant advice, I do have that skill set and I am happy to do that as a side hustle. If you pay me, you can contact me by direct message or email. Anything you need, I'm here. But anyway, I digress. Moving on. The second part of my project is the production, and this compiles the other third to half of my reading because I'm learning so much about the show itself, what devising is, what movement is, and how that's supposed to be taught and not how it was taught. There's a lot to be said about how much of a, to put it kindly, misguided mess the previous productions of Curious Incident have been. That's a video for a couple weeks from now. I believe September 10th specifically, if I'm remembering correctly. We're gonna save that for then. But the plan is to, within the legal limits of copyright obviously, restage and reframe this show to feel more natural and authentic. Because yes, Christopher does have a lot of stereotypes, but I think a lot of that is just by the way that the information is physically presented, and it can feel natural if we change that presentation. For example, like if you're familiar with the show Community, Abed seems like a very stereotypical autistic character on some level, but he's also very holistic and multidimensional. Why? Because he's written by an autistic person, and so we'll talk about this in the future, but the line between authentic representation and stereotype is very, very thin. So yeah, we don't necessarily have the script totally working out for us here, but I've assembled the majority of my team at this point, and we're gonna have an original score. We're gonna kind of take all of the original stroby loud lighting and sound design completely out. We're gonna take out the roboticness of it and turn it into a really cool movement piece made of and by neurodivergent people, and it's gonna be, I'm so excited. In regards to the division of neurotypical versus neurodivergent, I'm going solely on how people self-identify. I don't really care what diagnoses people have, because diagnoses don't really mean anything, and also the more research I do in this field, the more I firmly believe that neurotypicality and neurodivergency as distinct and pure categories do not exist. You can watch a video about it up here. That makes this whole show kind of a moot point of a project anyway, but I think in regards to the people in charge of like the mainstream theaters and stuff, the ones who say people like me shouldn't be in the theater, they're not going to believe the whole neurodivergency doesn't exist idea anyway, so I'm going to have to just suspend a little bit of my ideology that's ahead of the general public in order to do this work, in order to make this work. Also, obviously, everybody who is going to be a part of this project or is currently a part of this project knows it's going to be well publicized, and the clout of being in it does not outweigh the discrimination of being universally known as a neurodivergent person, so I don't think that there's really like a desire to fake it in order to get into the project, if that makes any sense. We do have some advising people that are not neurodivergent, but they are neither in the cast nor crew, so that's fine. Basically, the point of all of this is that my first acting teacher said, the theater isn't made for people like you, to me, on like the second day of class. And my second acting teacher called me a burden several times over. And also I've met a lot of unconscious job discrimination in this field. So my plan for this production is to show that the theater can be made for people like us, that we can create something really damn cool, we can create some really awesome art, and that we should be included in the mainstream business. So as flawed as Curious Incident is, it is a household name, and it means a lot to the neurodivergent community. And if I play my publicity cards right, the people who need to hear about it are gonna hear about it. I will continue to shout from the rooftops that there's never been an openly autistic person in a Broadway show or in a national tour until somebody casts me, I mean, makes it happen. So that is the plan. I'm going to definitely throw out the British accents to make it feel less distant. We're definitely going to play around with different gender expressions for Christopher. The current idea is that we can't change his pronouns legally, but we are going to change his gender expression every night. So one night we'll be like baby gay Christopher, and one night we'll be like full suit, and like, yeah. I think as flawed as the text is, it does mean a lot to the autistic community in its own way, and we deserve to see it at least somewhat done right. If you want to see it, it is going to be at Mount Holyoke College in Western Massachusetts. We're in South Hadley, on the Rook main stage, vaguely April 19th to 23rd of 2023. Stay tuned for more information. We're definitely going to do tickets as a pre-sale to see it, to see if we sell out immediately and need to add more performances, because based on interest that seems likely. But also, if you're not around or available, that is totally fine. First of all, because I have a feeling it's going to sell out pretty darn quickly, and second of all, because even though we can't legally film the performance, I would love to live stream it, just because like that's an accessibility option, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I really would fight for that, but I'm fighting for so much to get this show to actually happen. We will be documenting this process the whole way along. We're going to talk about I'm hoping to create some video pieces of our early rehearsals and have some interviews with various members of the production team to talk about what their choices were, how they went about their process of creating their portion of the thing, whether that's music or costumes, etc. We're going to talk about things in making stuff accessible that worked and things that totally didn't, and what our space looked like. All that's going to be on my channel pretty much throughout the year, but definitely for sure more in the spring when we're actually doing the show. We're going to be casting early fall and doing physical movement devising kind of work for like the whole fall semester. Do our first read through right before winter break. Everybody's going to learn their lines over break, and then we're going to block the whole show in the spring. So yes, I'm very excited about this. It's going to be super freaking cool, and we're going to make so much history with this, which is just exciting and baffling and also terrifying and sad, because I feel the need to do everything absolutely perfectly. But I also know that that is impossible, and I shouldn't be too hard on myself, because just the fact that this project exists on its own already just makes it perfect, but I'm an anxious child, so. Hence the excessive amount of research. I have a website linked in the description with all the information regarding my research and production and the sections of my project. The research page has my reading list on it if you are interested, because I know that a lot of people on Instagram were. I would also love to know what kinds of things you want to see in this production as well. Like, what are things that have always bothered you about the character? What aspects of autism do you want to see? Which ones do you want to be taken out? Please let me know. Obviously, we can't change lines, but I would love to make this show communal in some manner to reflect more of the autism community. I will update you all as well as update the website on what's going on. My Instagram story always has stuff about this. I also do reviews of my individual books that I'm reading on my Instagram story, because this is a special interest project and I'm not going to shut up about it. So you can follow me. Here's my handle to see the day-to-day of the project. But yeah, welcome to the world of my thesis. I am so glad to have you join me. I am excited to hear all of your ideas and hopes and dreams for this, and I cannot wait for it to actually be a thing, because after, gosh, three-ish years of imagining this thing, it's actually happening and it's actually here, even though the person that first came up with this idea was a mostly able-bodied girl who wasn't sure about her neurotype, and here I am after a pandemic, a very disabled gender fluid adult who almost died between then and now, and like, it's just really throwing me for a loop. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to get the chance to be doing this. I will never shut up about it, because I intend to make a scene and I intend to email a lot of newspapers, and I intend to make the world pay attention to what we're doing so we can make some change happen. So thank you for being here. I hope that you're just as excited about this as I am. I look forward to seeing you throughout this journey and hearing your ideas. I think it's gonna be a pretty darn cool experience. So as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for learning. Remember, it is never too late to start over. Frankly, this show is proof of that. And I look forward to seeing you, my dear, in the next one.